So next up, we've got the DAM marketplace, and Teresa, you've been following this space for at least 10 years. I think you've watched a lot of these systems grow up. Let's talk a little bit about how it's evolved, particularly how it's evolved recently. There's been a lot of activity around this space.
Yeah, indeed. I'll just go right into a sort of graphic that we use at the marketplace here. And these are the vendors that we evaluate in our research. And for those of you who aren't new to Real Story Group, on the line, as Tony mentioned, we have very hard-hitting research and very critical evaluations of these tools. And they're all very different tools that we look at across the DAM marketplace. And when I say different, I don't necessarily mean that they're different in terms of what they do. DAM tools are kind of like cars in the sense that their purpose is to take you from point A to point B. DAMs as a whole are there to help you manage your video and audio and images and brand assets better. So the functionality is pretty similar. But one of the big changes in the industry, especially over the last couple of years, is everything that has to do with the cloud. There's also been a lot of proliferation more recently around some maturity in the open source market. It's definitely not as rich as the open source web content management market or document management market, but we are seeing more use of open source DAM as well. But I'll specifically talk about the sort of two biggest blocks on this slide, which are basically the bifurcation between on-premise and the tools that have historically been installed on-premise versus the very large growth of the cloud vendors in this space. And I'll speak a little bit more to that in a second, but also the bottom left is interesting to speak about because we have there big enterprise vendors, sort of the household names of the broader enterprise content management world, like EMC and Oracle and OpenText. And these vendors, of course, are selling broader suites or marketing suites or enterprise content management suites. And they're also considering DAM as a component of something bigger.
And we all know how that turns out.
Yes, we do. Indeed. We have an expression at RSG that we like to use, which is suites aren't always sweet. And usually DAM is an afterthought when it comes to a lot of the larger vendors that are out there. I'll just go right into the cloud piece that I was speaking to. And I think it would be interesting, Tony, as well, if you'd comment on this from a broader marketing toolkit perspective, which is, historically we've had a lot of vendors on premise, and there's been, as I mentioned, over the last couple of years, a lot more vendors that are 100% cloud. And I've come up with a sort of expression called cloud, which is how much experience do these vendors really have, and do they actually support, and are they actually updating their code base so that they can architecturally take advantage of cloud infrastructures that we have today? So you can see the movement here between these two, and I'll just shift. This is actually the slide from about 2 years ago, and then this is the slide now, where I just updated this a couple months ago, where you can see the vendors are shifting more towards the cloud side and have more experience in the cloud, which I think fits with the overall movement of digital marketing technology. Would you agree with that, Tony?
Yeah, and it's always interesting then to make the distinction, which ones are really cloud native, and are there opportunities for multi-tenancy? Some people don't want multi-tenancy, of course. I think what's also interesting that we see certainly in some other segments is that the vendors who are traditionally on-premise, they might offer some platform as a service. In other words, they might provide some managed cloud services, but then the issue is like who's actually managing that, right? Or do you have to do it yourself? Basically, okay, the tool's been certified to run on Amazon, but you've got to work out all of the details. So it sounds like there's a lot of issues still to sort out there.
Definitely, and I would say that the vendors that are on the left-hand side of this spectrum here, they're really much more offering managed services. It's not in contrast, I would say, to the vendors on the right-hand side. The ones that are furthest to the right, they're multi-tenant. They're the more pure software as a service. And the ones in between offer a mix of different options. So remember that when you're looking at this market, or really any piece of enterprise technology, when you hear the word cloud, it's not a binary thing. And we have a lot of things in our research, a lot of our evaluation criteria now looks at this and how successfully the vendors perform in these different deployment models.
Yeah, I love this cloud. I think we might want to trademark that. I don't know. But anyway.